Did you know that every time you open your DAW and start making music, you are actually using the logic that was born back in the 80s? Pattern, sound mode, step sequencer, quantize, swing, transport panel, and mixer. All these are not just features of your favorite software, they are the legacy of electronic drum machines. Roland Tier 808, Lin Drum, Oberheim DMX, Yamaha RX11, EMU SP12, Akai MPC, and many others. It was those drum machines of the 80s that first combined all these elements in one device, on a single panel. And they set the foundation for the UX logic we've been using for more than 40 years. If you are just starting in UI UX design or simply curious about how music tools evolved, make yourself comfortable for the next few minutes. We are diving into design history of audio software and hardware and discovering how ideas from the 80s still shape the way we create music today. Yes, of course, there was Fairlight CMI, a true titan. It brought visual sound editing into studios, waveform displays, sampling, and the legendary page art. Its influence on modern DAWs is enormous, but here we'll intentionally focus on hardware drum machines and how they shaped the physical UX logic, the step sequencer, play, stop, record, patterns, sound modes, copy-paste, mixer, and more. Fairlight is a fascinating yet separate story, one I hope we'll tell in one of our upcoming episodes. In the 80s, the idea of pattern was revolutionary. The Roland TR-808 let musicians see rhythm for the first time. 16 buttons, each one a step in a musical time. That's how the step sequencer was born, a visual language of rhythm. And when Lin LM1 introduced sound mode, the ability to chain patterns into full composition, it became essentially the first version of a timeline. Sounds turned into events in time, music gained a clear structure, and rhythm became visible. When Roger Lin was creating the Lin LM1, he stumbled upon an interesting paradox. The machine played rhythm too precisely, perfectly precisely. That's how quantization was born, a digital way to automatically align notes to a timing grid. And soon after that came swing, a slight delay between certain groups of notes that made the groove feel more human and more alive. It was the birth of the new sense of time, the moment a machine learned to make mistakes beautifully. And these two functions later became the standard in MIDI sequences and eventually in every DAW. 3 simple buttons. Without them, modern music and modern DAWs wouldn't exist. Back in the 60s, 70s, play, stop and record existed on only tape recorders. And they controlled tape, not music. At the same time, synthesizers only generated sound. They didn't control time or events. There were no play buttons on synthesizers, and certainly no record. Drum machines changed that. With the arrival of digital memory, they brought transport logic inside the instrument itself. Play, stop, and record became more than just commands. They became an interface for time, a way to trigger and record musical events directly within the sequencer. And that was the birth of modern UX in music. The moment musicians began to control time, not just sound. From here came synchronized track starts, step recording, time loops, and punch in and out. In other words, drum machines pulled play out of studio tape deck and handled it to every musician out there. Today, copy and paste feels trivial, but in the 80s it was a revolution. In analog drum machines like TR-808, to move one pattern to another, you had to replay it by hand, every single note. Only with the arrival of digital drum machines like LM1 or DMX did users gain the ability to duplicate patterns quickly and flawlessly. That's when something we now call workflow was born. A fast, repeatable process of building beats and making music. It's worth noting that around the same time Fairlight was already allowing users to copy entire sections on screen, anchoring this idea deep within digital culture. But it would take many more years before such interfaces became common, not just privilege for a few. Fairlight showed the direction, but drum machines made it simple, tactile, and accessible to everyone. Imagine a DAW without a mixer. Impossible, right? You guessed it right, it was those drum machines that first integrated it into instrument itself. Roland Tier 808, 909, Lean LM1, Oberheim DMX, Yamaha RX5, all of them had separate outputs and dedicated volume controls for each sound. For the first time, a musical instrument had a built-in mixer where every drum element had its own analog output channel. It gave musicians a true sense of control. You could balance, pan, and add effects as if you were working on a real studio console. Synthesizers and samplers quickly adopted this idea of multi-channel design from drum machines. By the late 80s, the first workstation synthesizers appeared, instruments that combined a sequencer, effects, multiple timbres, and a built-in digital mixer, and sometimes even a separate analog outputs, just like their drum predecessors. And from there, it was just one step away from digital audio workstation. So when you open the mixer in Logic Pro or Ableton today, you are actually touching the very same idea that was born inside the drum machines of the 80s. When you hit play, you are triggering the legacy of Roland, Lean Drum, Oberheim, Yamaha, Korg, Akai, EMU, and many others. And if we borrow that famous line from Back to the Future, and today we could possibly say, we built a time machine out of DAW and a drum machine. Fairlights and drum machines, two sides of the same revolution. Fairlight showed us how to see music, while drum machines let us feel it, physically, step by step, through the logic of rhythm. Together they build the foundation of everything we now call the digital audio workstation.